The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report, TV and radio. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
Blog Talk Radio.
Live from the PWR studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is the Pro Wrestling Report Post Show on Blog Talk Radio with your host, Damian Nelson.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the post show for WWE's Capital Punishment on pay-per-view. It's Sunday, June 19, 2011, and thank you for joining us all over the world here on Blog Talk Radio. A pay-per-view that was new for WWE today, and I think it left quite a bit to be desired. We're going to be taking your phone calls. The number is 347-996-5278. Again, 347-996-5278. We're taking your phone calls. When we get to that point, we're going to acknowledge you by the area code from which you are calling. Share with us your name and location that you're calling from, and we will acknowledge you from there. Also, the chat room at Blog Talk Radio. Some nearly 200 people chatting in there right now about WWE's Capital Punishment on pay-per-view. And on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report, where we're going to be reading a lot of your comments from this evening's pay-per-view as it happened from our Facebook page.
Stop stalking your ex and be our friend on Facebook and join the tremendous worldwide discussion. Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report.
Well, let's talk about the highlights of this pay-per-view Capital Punishment. We had two championships change hand, the United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championship, both changing hands tonight at Capital Punishment. Brand new United States Champion is Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler now holding gold again in World Wrestling Entertainment. Another excellent matchup between he and Kofi Kingston tonight on the pay-per-view, the opening matchup on the pay-per-view. A very, very good match. I can't say it's not something I would have expected from these two athletes. They are tremendous in the ring. I've long been a big fan of both Dolph Ziggler, rather. So I was reading some there, of Dolph Ziggler and of Kofi Kingston. A good match, as I said, and some of your comments on the matchup we had on Facebook. Terrence Reed saying, about time we have a U.S. champion that will actually be on TV and matter. Corey McGinn saying, I'm glad Ziggler got the victory. Daryl Dari Izrari saying, blah ending. Glad Ziggler's won, though. Luke Henderson saying, stupid finish, but the right guy went over. Ziggler definitely has more potential as a main eventer than Kofi. And Jacko, bad guy Jackson saying, ha ha, Kofi, that's funny. A good matchup between those two. The first of two titles that would change hands tonight at WWE's Capital Punishment from Washington, D.C. We're joined now on the phone by David Hero, the opinionist of the Pro Wrestling Report. David was watching in Milwaukee at Romines along with the Humanoids and comes on board with us now. David, how are you this evening?
Damian, I am doing absolutely tremendous. But how are you doing tonight?
I am fantastic. I don't have a complaint in the world. It's a beautiful day.
You're kind of like the Timex watch, aren't you?
I keep on ticking.
Takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
I'm a Timex watch run by Energizer batteries. Ain't no stopping me now. David Hero, WWE Capital Punishment tonight. We were just talking about the matchup between Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler, the new United States champion. Your thoughts?
Well, it was the right match to open the show. The two most athletic guys in the company start things off, and you know what? They needed to put a belt back on Dolph Ziggler because he needs it. The fans are behind the guy. Vince is behind the guy. Vicky Guerrero is with him. Kofi's always going to be popular with the fans. Doesn't really need a belt to be over, but Dolph Ziggler needed that to keep his heat rolling. And besides, he's a super friend. Of course he needs a championship.
The next matchup was The Miz versus Alex Riley. A lot of build going into this matchup. David Hero, I, of course, am surprised at the outcome of the matchup. Alex Riley pins The Miz, and gets a victory. And the fans in Washington, D.C. initially were very, very enthusiastic about Alex Riley, but that enthusiasm didn't seem to carry throughout the matchup. But not a bad match overall. I just can't believe that you really had that much power and pull to, with one draft pick, ruin the career of a former WWE champion.
You know, Alex Riley, a star was born tonight. And you know what? You can thank your boy The Miz for putting him over clean. I mean, wow, who would have known it was that easy to beat The Miz when he was the world champion? That's probably why he kept himself in a feud with 62-year-old Jerry the King Lawler.
A couple of comments on Facebook regarding what you just said, David Hero, about did Alex Riley become a star tonight? We asked that question on our Facebook page, and Saul Perez Jr. saying, I think Alex Riley did become a star tonight. Even used Edge's Impaler DDT as his finisher. The crowd loved it. A lot of people behind A-Rai.
A-Rai's a star. You know what? He has great. Listen, you know they're going to do good things with him when they give the guy good entrance music. You know, and that's what they did. I mean, he has good music that the fans like. He's a good-looking guy. He can talk. You know what? I really think if they do business right with Alex Riley, he's going to be a future big-time star in this business.
In the chat room here on Blog Talk Radio, user by the name of Bahama Boy 242 saying, I don't feel bad for The Miz. He will be champ before the year is over. It's a given. So I'm just saying. One of the comments.
Divas champ?
Well, champions, a belt's a belt, right? If they're all props according to you, what does it matter?
Hey, I'll take it. Believe me, you know, I can use the points. I wish he'd start to win again.
Alberto Del Rio versus The Big Show. Before the match ever got underway, Mark Henry comes out and involves himself physically in the matchup, attacking The Big Show and putting him through the Spanish announce table, which lasted about 48 minutes tonight. After that, though, David Hero, something very bizarre happened because Big Show wants to get back into the ring. He wants to get back into the matchup, but the match hadn't started yet. The bell hadn't rung yet. The referee started counting out the Big Show, and then once the Big Show got in the ring, the bell rung. I think that this was a spectacular story that ended in Alberto Del Rio getting what many thought was impossible win over the Big Show.
Del Rio is the future star of this company, so that wasn't an impossible victory whatsoever. I mean, the guy can talk. He's rich. He's handsome. He's powerful.
Given the way this was built up, the angry Big Show, I mean, he was throwing set pieces around on SmackDown Friday night. You had to believe that there was no chance that Alberto Del Rio would get the win tonight, and I think they continued.
Wait a minute. Weren't you standing next to me during Be the Booker this past week? What was my DWHS match of the night? It was Del Rio over Big Show. And why was that? Because Big Show was hurt. You know, they played off the storyline of the injury.
What I'm saying is, though, they presented Big Show as a monster over the last week, ever since he returned on Raw this past Monday night. I think that it was a smart way to play it, and I'm not disputing whether or not Del Rio was going to win or not. I like the way they did it. I think they continued that story and told a very good story tonight about Alberto Del Rio sneaking a win that he may not have gotten if not for the help of Mark Henry.
ADR is the giant killer. Hands down.
I thought Rey Mysterio was.
Well, not anymore. I mean, he used to be, but now it's ADR. But you already knew that.
A question out to our Facebook peeps was asked as well, was a good story told during the ADR Big Show match? And Terrence Reed saying, can Del Rio get a program on Raw that matters, please? He's gone from heavyweight title matches to the Big Show treatment. Adam Hayes saying, awesome story. If Show didn't jump him, the match would have been 30 seconds because of how badly he wanted Del Rio's head. Plus, it gives Mark Henry something to do. Jim Rogers saying, go ahead, David.
This is now the second week in a row where the babyface has jumped the heel on the way to the ring. Mm-hmm. And both times the babyface has lost. Sting did it with Ken Anderson. Now Big Show does it with ADR. You know what? The good guys aren't supposed to jump the bad guys from behind. And when they do, they normally lose.
A good match, or a good story, rather, told during that scenario, I believe, between Alberto Del Rio and the Big Show. Another championship changed hands tonight, and that was the Intercontinental Championship as your boy, Wade Barrett, loses the title to Big Zeke, Ezekiel Jackson. And I got to give props to Wade Barrett for every word he said on the way down to the ring as he ran down the United States of America. But it should be noted, David Hero, that neither man was from America.
Right, and the part that was painful is that when Wade Barrett was doing that, you knew he was not going to retain his title.
Did you think
shame.
Did you think he would lose to the torture rack, though? I guess that's a no.
You cut out on me. I missed your question.
Well, never mind. We'll move right along to the next matchup, which was an amazing match as well. Some good wrestling tonight, David Hero, at least until we got to the main event. This match was between CM Punk and Rey Mysterio. Before the matchup, CM Punk spells the gospel amongst wrestling fans all over the world, talking about politics and politicking and how he's not that guy, and really did speak some things that I'm not sure we've heard happen, at least on WWE programming, if ever, if not in a long time. And it's funny because David Hero, coming up this Thursday on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time, it's a whole special episode on the politics of professional wrestling as we look at what that really means and some of the stuff CM Punk says leading to that, and some of those specific situations where politics has drastically changed wrestling history. But that happens Thursday on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Television, a special edition, an in-depth look at the politics of wrestling. But David Hero, this matchup tonight between CM Punk and Rey Mysterio was, I think, tremendous, and it saw CM Punk get the win. But he did promise us something that I'm not sure we got, which was to do what, or show the WWE Universe the most honest thing a wrestler's ever done. Maybe that's a tease for tomorrow night's 3-hour Raw, but this match, regardless, excellent from both men.
Those two guys, you can tell they have great chemistry and tremendous mutual respect for each other because they were both, there was so much give and take, throughout the match. And they told a great story. And I thought the finish was absolutely fabulous. I mean, what a great way for Ray to lose, but another way to lose but still leave the match very strong.
Next matchup was Randy Orton versus Christian for the World Heavyweight Championship. Controversy surrounding the end of this matchup as when Randy Orton got the pin on Christian after the RKO, Christian's foot was clearly under the rope, which was a story that continued after the matchup. But getting to that point, David Hero, another excellent wrestling exhibition from Christian and Randy Orton.
Both guys can go. They're probably two of the better technical wrestlers in the company. And you know what? Second pay-per-view where they may have stolen the show. I mean, if it wasn't for Punk and Ray, I would have to say that Orton versus Christian was match of the night. But how many times on this pay-per-view were they going to have not really screw job finishes, but just complicated finishes? It seems like every match, with the exception of Barrett and Ahmed Johnson, was there
Ezekiel Jackson.
Ezekiel Jackson. There was someone or something involved in the finish.
Well, there were a lot of questions about that end of that matchup, and a lot of people talking about it on our Facebook page. Brian Knoll saying, really, his foot was under the rope? Christian is definitely the favorite for Money in the Bank. We do have another pay-per-view coming up in a couple of weeks from Chicago's Allstate Arena. The question was one of them screwed? Was Christian screwed? The answer, Brian Kahop saying, absolutely. Christian had his foot under the rope. Just a horrible ending to the match. Justin Taylor Barnaby saying, WWE is annoying. When it's John Cena, they restart the match, but Christian is overlooked. Bull snot. So lots of opinions out there about that particular matchup between Randy Orton and CM Punk. But again, at the end of the day, it was a great match. And after that, David Hero, we had an hour left in this pay-per-view and one match that was announced yet to happen. That match being for the WWE Championship, John Cena versus R-Truth. Now, there was no way, and I mean no way, that match was going to go an hour, or even close to 30 minutes, or even close to 20 minutes. So something else had to happen, and then here came John Keystone, who cares, Light, whatever, walking with the Bellas down to the ring, And then out came the fake President Obama, who gave a press conference, which, by the way,
that wasn't him?
No, that wasn't him, David Hero, nor was it Bill
Really?
Clinton at Survivor Series 95
or
whatever.
It looked just like him. I thought for
it
sure
did not look
Obama
just
was
like
No?
Our president of the United States
anybody,
is busy.
I guess.
He's busy getting stuff done. He doesn't have time for a WWE pay-per-view. Moving right along.
Well, he was playing golf yesterday, wasn't he?
Well,
why not? Golf and wrestling in the same weekend?
He gets a day off. He's taken actually one of the shortest amounts of vacation time of any sitting U.S. president. Check your facts. But be that as it may, the press conference bit was actually somewhat entertaining. And I'm like, you know what? If that's it, that's cool. That's all right. We had a couple of scenes earlier in the night with Vicky Guerrero and whatnot, and Santino Marella with the fake prez. Whatever. It was all right. That made some sense. But then we had to see the whole thing and the Spinneroonie and then the mention of him being the first black president, which, great, whatever, fine. But why do they feel the need, David Hero? Why do they feel the need to do this? Why do they feel the need to go?
Because they're hoping at the end of the night that the local news or TMZ or People Magazine or Perez Hilton will pick up on it and give them some press.
Really? Perez Hilton? Really?
Well, you follow him. I see who you follow on Twitter. I see at Perez Hilton on there.
You go ahead. You keep it up. You just keep it up. You know there's no way I follow Perez Hilton.
Okay. Well, quit talking about him. Quit putting him over. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. You're the one that... Didn't you have somewhere to be? You know what? We just got a comment on Twitter. Reference President Obama. Big Daddy D88 saying it was the Fox News Obama impersonator.
Oh, my gosh. Uh-huh.
Well, I'm sure they have
fine.
4 or 5 on staff for their fake press conferences.
Of course we do. And they get paid extremely well.
To complete filling that hour, it was a bonus match. Actually, a bonus attraction. Evan Bourne versus Jack Swagger, David Hero. Not a bad match, but a bonus attraction. And then
Absolutely.
Evan Bourne getting the win on Jack Swagger.
Jack Swagger needs to give Armando Alejandro Estrada a call and beg him to manage him. Because that boy has so much talent and is so far off base right now, he needs someone to reel him in. You
would have thought that Jack Swagger would get the win in this pay-per-view matchup, but Jack Swagger dominated the match, and as more and more of that happened, it seemed so obvious that Evan Bourne would end up losing that or winning that matchup rather over Jack Swagger.
You know, you got to wonder if they're trying to build the X division around Evan Bourne.
The X division?
Yeah.
That's in Total Nonstop Action Impact Wrestling.
But you know Vince is going to showcase his X division stars. Why not? Bound to happen. You watch.
Yeah.
And that pay-per-view is going to be called Money in the Bank.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Did you have any spirits at Romance?
Listen. The X Division pay-per-view is coming up next month for TNA.
It is, July.
Vinnie Mac is going to counter by putting his X Division guys in the Money in the Bank. You watch.
We'll see.
You know I'm right. We'll talk about this on Thursday night.
On Wednesday when we're on 540
Wednesday.
Because Thursday night's PWR primetime. Maybe you should check your broadcast schedule.
Well, if you'd email me a run sheet once in a while.
Tired of all the lies, rumors, and assumptions in wrestling news? So are we. Join us each week for the Pro Wrestling Report on ESPN Radio for the latest news and views on pro wrestling. Visit us at pwrshow.com to check the latest schedule.
And we are taking your phone calls here tonight on the post show of WWE's Capital Punishment pay-per-view. The number 347-996-5278. 347-996-5278. David Hero, the main event tonight was for the WWE Championship, John Cena versus R-Truth. And John Cena retains the WWE Championship thanks to Little Jimmy.
Easily over Ron. You know, I felt bad for Ron Killings. He finally makes it into a headlining pay-per-view, and do you think he would have done anything special in a match? No. He does rest hold and doesn't wrestle the type of match he's known to wrestle. He obviously had to dumb it down for John Cena.
Well, let me tell you what. This match was. It wasn't good, David. It wasn't a main event matchup.
Honestly, listen, the whole pay-per-view was bad.
Really?
You know? Yeah. I don't think so. It really was.
I don't think so.
What match was good? Besides Punk and Ray, which we've seen a million times, and Christian and Orton, which we've seen 1,002,000 times, nothing else on there was worth it.
Kingston Ziggler was worth it? I don't care.
How many times have you seen that?
How many times did we see The Undertaker and Mankind in 1996? How many times did Rock and Austin headline WrestleMania?
Okay.
What does that matter?
But listen, every time Taker and Mankind and Rock and Austin wrestled on a pay-per-view, they stole the show. You left talking about those matches. Right now, we're now stuck talking about a little kid throwing a glass of 7-Up into Ron Killing's face that then lets John Cena beat him. A large cup of 7-Up beat Ron Killings.
For storyline purposes, didn't it all make sense, though? Wasn't there a little bit of irony there? Wasn't
that's great. But how? So what you're telling me is that a 9-year-old kid can beat Ron Killings. Just give him a big glass of soda.
I don't have to tell you, he did it tonight.
Mm-hmm. That just killed any bit of momentum Ron Killings had.
Should this match have been switched with the Orton-Christian match? Should that have ended the show? Would a lot of people saying that this pay-per-view was better than it may have been, or would definitely not be saying that it was so horrible if a better wrestling matchup and not this mess that was the Cena R-Truth match had happened at the end?
No, because they got John Cena hanging out with the troops on the show. You know, you don't want to end the show with Randy Orton knocking out Christian with the World Championship title.
Yeah, well.
What about presentation?
It was a poor choice. Presentation, you just said the show was horrible, really, though, and most people are saying it up there because of the bad taste left in their mouth as a result of the ending of the show. We didn't get to see Cena dance or hanging with the troops. I don't know what happened in the arena, but, I mean, you might have had that moment, but it didn't matter for the pay-per-view audience.
Wow. You know what? Money in the Bank, their own Destination X pay-per-view is going to be the one that we'll be talking about. That's going to be the highlight of the year for me, Money in the Bank.
Now, you know, last year at this time, a man by the name of The Miz, before you ruined his career, won Money in the Bank. And Kane, I believe, won it last year as well, and then he cashed it in immediately against Rey Mysterio.
Yes, he did.
Money in the Bank should be a fun and interesting pay-per-view. We're going to be in Chicago at that show at the Allstate Arena, one of my favorite venues in the world, you know, for WWE's Money in the Bank, and maybe it will be the second coming of The Miz. David Harrell, overall you say this was a poor pay-per-view, not worth $55. Here's the money question. Which pay-per-view this month takes the prize? TNA Slammiversary or WWE Capital Punishment?
I would go with Slammiversary.
Wow. That's an amazing statement.
And believe me, I mean, Super Friends did great on both shows. You scored
175 points tonight because you have the easy picks of John Cena, Randy Orton, and you and Frank colluded to not allow me to have R-Truth, only allowing me to score 80 points, which is fine. I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. Current spread, 840 points for the Super Friends to 690 points for the Nelson family. And believe you me when I say this, make it gospel, make a T-shirt, rent an airplane, and fly it behind it. And I quote, it'll be fine.
Well, I hope so for you. I don't know how it can be fine.
Your deficit was bigger at one point.
Yeah.
And
I've overcome it. And all my guys are still on the active roster. I mean, Slater and Gabriel, job to the Usos. Morrison's out. Cody Rhodes was even on the pay-per-view.
Well, David Harrell, thank you very much for joining us here on the post show. We'll talk to you Wednesday night when we are live on 540 ESPN discussing all the happenings in the week of professional wrestling. Thank you very much, David Hero, for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon. And let's go to the phones now. We're going to be taking your calls for the last few minutes of the show here. The number 347-996-5278. 347-996-5278. And in the chat room, before we go to the phones, a user by the name of Snake2J saying Capital Punishment made Slammiversary look like a 5-star event. Wow. Can't say I'd have been sitting here in this studio thinking that you out there in the fan kingdom would be saying a TNA pay-per-view was better than WWE in masses, and that's what we're having. So the questions we want you to answer tonight as we go to the phones are, pass or fail on the pay-per-view, and why, and was it better or worse than TNA Slammiversary? Let's go to our first caller, who's calling us from the 815 area code. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Damien, it's EJ, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing good.
Good. What'd you think of the pay-per-view? Pass or fail for WWE Capital Punishment?
It's a good question. I would probably give it a C+, so barely a pass, because I really think that both Randy Orton and Christian and Rey Mysterio and CM Punk stole the show. If you're not aware, this is CM Punk's first win on pay-per-view since Extreme Rules of last year. He's on a 13-month pay-per-view losing streak, so it's cool to see him go over. And other than that, the thing I really did not like the most was Big Show and Alberto Del Rio. How I would have booked it is I would have had Big Show counted out, and then I would have had the match tomorrow night, have Alberto Del Rio, and that match be a Money in the Bank qualifier, have Alberto Del Rio win that, and have Alberto Del Rio go to Money in the Bank, win it Money in the Bank, and then go to SummerSlam and win the WWE title there, and have Big Show have end the feud and have him feud with Mark Henry. So that's what I did. So
which pay-per-view was better, Slammiversary or Capital Punishment?
I probably have to go with Capital Punishment.
All right. Thank you very much for that call from Chicago. Let's go to our next caller, who's calling us from the 906 area code. Caller from the 906. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Mike. I'm calling from the UP in Michigan.
Mike, what did you think of Capital Punishment? Was it a passing or failing show for you tonight?
Absolute fail.
All right. Why so?
I'm so sick of seeing people like The Miz because I know how hard they work to get the fans to hate him as much as he does. I'm so sick of seeing him get buried.
Here's a question, though, Mike. If The Miz weren't so good at what he does, would the fans have cared as much as they did about Alex Riley?
That's a very good point. No, I don't think they would have, because I am a Riley fan, and I like seeing him win, but at the same time, they're just completely destroying The Miz, and it's just ridiculous. And they're doing the same thing with Wade Barrett.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens down the road. I think The Miz I think you can call him right now the Teflon Don of WWE, because I think a lot of people are going to enjoy seeing him lose, and I think that over the course of the next few months, if not weeks, we're going to see The Miz back into that title picture and climb his way back up to the top in WWE, because they have invested a lot in The Miz. And while I'm surprised he already lost the WWE Championship, and just a couple of months after WrestleMania is working in the second match of a pay-per-view for not the championship, I still think that we're going to see The Miz rise to a level of prominence in WWE.
Well,
now,
I
Mike,
hope so.
Your opinion, which show was better this month? Was it Slammiversary or Capital Punishment?
Oh, Slammiversary by far. I watched the entire thing. I thought every match was great.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for that call up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Let's go to our next caller, who's calling from the 201 area code. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller from the 210.
Oh, hello?
Oh, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Justin from San Antonio. You said 201 for a second, so I thought
I know. I messed up. Sorry about that, Justin. What did you think? Pass or fail on the pay-per-view tonight?
For me, give it a 6 out of 10.
Pass or fail. Pass or fail.
It's barely going to be a fail. It's barely going to be a fail. And the reason why is because of the ending with Cena and R-Truth. And I didn't like the Ezekiel Jackson and Wade Barrett match. I thought that was a very slow match with two big guys, and it was pretty horrible.
Really? Could you call it a match, though? And you understand why it was slow, don't you?
Well, yeah, they're two big guys, and, but, I mean, and Ezekiel's very limited in the ring as well, so
yeah.
He was just doing body slams, he did like 4 body slams in a row, then he did clotheslines, and, basically that's what he did the whole match, but I mean, for for the highlights, I thought Orton and Christian was very good. CM Punk and Rey Mysterio was very good. I thought Miz and Alex Riley was a good match. But to pay $55, it's not really worth it.
And that's the question: was it worth the money? And I just before I ordered the pay-per-view, I said, oh man. Firstly, do I need it in HD? Secondly, do I really want to drop $55 for this thing? And I'm like, gosh, I don't want to. But of course,
the matches on paper look good. I mean, Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, Miz, and Alex Riley.
Yeah, but they only look so good. They didn't look great.
Yeah, they only look so good. Yeah, they didn't look great. They look good. And I mean, it was just. And at the end, not the end, but with the Barack Obama thing with Booker T and the key.
It was Fox Obama, not Barack Obama.
Well, Fox News Obama. I mean, it was. I mean, I didn't want to see that. I mean, even though it was the capital punishment, gimmick of the pay-per-view. I mean, but did you really want to see that if you're paying $55 for it? Do you want to see a 10-minute spot with a Barack Obama? No. It's not really worth the money for that.
Overall, which show was better, Capital Punishment or Slammiversary?
I'm going to go with Slammiversary. I mean, Slammiversary was a good show. It was a very, very good show on TNA's part. Capital Punishment wasn't as good as Slammiversary this month.
All right. Thank you very much, Justin, for that call from San Antonio, Texas. Let's go to our next caller, who is calling us from the 269 area code. Caller from the 269 area code, you are live. What's your name and where are you calling from?
David from Michigan.
David, what did you think of the pay-per-view tonight? Pass or fail?
It was a complete fail. Well, not complete, because Punk and Ray and Christian Orton was a good match. But, I mean, watching it before CM Punk and Ray, I was like, man, this pay-per-view is not really that good. Not even on paper it didn't look that good, I didn't think.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, which pay-per-view was better? Was it Slammiversary or tonight's Capital Punishment?
Oh, it's no question. Slammiversary.
Wow. I'm very surprised. Surprised by two things. Not many of you have mentioned the matchup between Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston. And I don't know if enough value is being given to the show overall if you extract the Cena-Truth match.
Well,
because I don't think anybody had high expectations of that matchup. David, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. That was almost a question. Did you have high expectations for the matchup of Cena and Truth?
I thought it'd be better because the match they had on Raw with when Truth had to beat like 3 other people, that was really a good match when it came down to just those two. I was like, man, this is a really good match. And I was like, I'd love to see you two have a one-on-one match. And the way they ended it was just like, man, have him lose to some Sprite. I mean, Super Cena wins again.
Yeah, well, that he did. Thank you very much for that call, David, out in Michigan. And, we got some comments going here in the chat room on Blog Talk Radio. User by the name of NotSlip25 saying, that's because we've seen Kofi zig like 4 billion times, Nelson. Well, you know how to get that, but I'm sorry. I don't understand how, if you're a wrestling fan and not just a hater or a complainer, how you can't just enjoy a great wrestling exhibition between two great competitors, no matter how many times it happens. Now, there is a difference. If we're seeing it each and every week, that does dilute it. But I don't mind seeing the same two guys put on a great wrestling episode on multiple pay-per-view events. I don't mind it at all. But everyone is entitled to their opinion. Let's go to our next caller, calling from the 832 area code. Caller from the 832, you're live. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Damien, it's me, Ricardo from Houston.
What up there, Ricardo?
What up, dog?
What did you think of the pay-per-view tonight? Pass or fail for Capital Punishment?
was a pass because Team Bundesliga 1-3 in the PWR fan draft got 235 points tonight.
Wow, that's fantastic.
According to your point system. So, yeah.
That's great, and we want to thank the many of you who signed up for Season 1 of the PWR Fantasy Fan Draft. Those results and points and scoring will be out tomorrow at pwrshow.com, but we can tell you that the prize pool is well over $200 as we speak. Looks like it's going to be sailing up more than that by the time it's all said and done. The winners do get a cash prize, and we're guaranteeing a minimum payout of $200 in that Season 1 of the PWR Fan Draft. And guess what?
What I want to say, Damien, is all these people, they whine, we want wrestling. Well, you got good wrestling tonight with the exception of the main event.
That's a good point.
With the exception of the main event and Big Zeke and, what's his name, Wade Barrett. You got good wrestling, so stop whining that we want wrestling. We got 3 great matches, I think, in Orton and Christian and Punk and Ray and Dolph Easy and Kofi. And overall, this is a better pay-per-view than Slammiversary. Whatever.
All right. Well, Ricardo, thank you very much for that call down in Houston. I want to remind all of you listening to us on Blog Talk Radio, we don't want you to ever miss an episode here of the Pro Wrestling Report, so be sure to follow the show.
Don't forget to follow PWR right here on Blog Talk Radio right now. Be reminded of upcoming episodes and never miss Blog Talk Radio's most popular sports show. Follow PWR now.
We were scheduled to go 30 minutes tonight. We're in overtime because we've got many of you who've been waiting on hold for over 30 minutes, so we're going to try to run through all your phone calls right now as we continue talking about WWE Capital Punishment here on Blog Talk Radio. And for those of you that follow us already, I want to thank you for keeping the Pro Wrestling Report the most popular sports show on all of Blog Talk Radio. We definitely appreciate you listening and taking us with you on the go from Blog Talk Radio. Our next caller comes to us from the 203 area code. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, I am Dylan, and I am calling from Connecticut.
Dylan from Connecticut, not from 1241 East Main Street, are you?
No, I'm not.
All right, just making sure. I had to mind what I say if it was an office employee. But anyways, Dylan, what did you think of tonight's WWE Capital Punishment pay-per-view?
The one good thing that came out of it was Dolph Ziggler winning the U.S. title. The rest of the card was like a 3-hour Raw.
Really? Wow, okay. So would you give the pay-per-view overall a pass or fail?
Overall, I give it a fail of 6 out of 10.
All right, and which show was better this month in your opinion? Was it Slammiversary or tonight's Capital Punishment?
Slammiversary by far. But I think in WWE backstage, I think that the creative is doing something that I know the internet fans are complaining that there's too many gimmick pay-per-views. And I think that creative is just saying that maybe we shouldn't have gimmick pay-per-views, and let's have all the non-gimmick pay-per-views really suck.
You know, look, there's millions of dollars on the line, and WWE is not going to, quote-unquote, throw away a pay-per-view, at least knowingly so. It seems as if we did see, as David Hero mentioned earlier, it seems as if we did see tonight some solid progression to Money in the Bank. And then we're on our way to SummerSlam. WWE's got a lot to invest into SummerSlam to get their several 100,000 buys that they expect to get and need to get so they can keep drawing that revenue. So I don't think any pay-per-view is, in any company's mind, a throwaway pay-per-view. But I definitely understand what you're saying because they definitely do put many more efforts into some of the pay-per-views versus other pay-per-views.
Right.
Dylan, thank you so much for the call. We appreciate you calling in here to the post show. Let's go to our next caller who's calling from the 504 area code. Caller from the 504, you're live. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Damien. I'm Brian from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Brian from New Orleans. You know, I'm taking a couple of vacation days this week, which is why we're not going to be able to do a post show tomorrow night. And I said, man, where am I going to go? Is it going to be Vegas? Is it going to be Orlando? Or is it going to be New Orleans?
Oh, you got to come down, man. You got to come down.
Well, see, the problem is I don't want to lose the rest of the week for the couple of days I'm going to be down there. So I opted not to go to New Orleans. But man, oh man, I could be in the
Hell in a
Cell
Cell in October, man.
I'm sorry?
Hey, Hell in a Cell is going to be down here in October. Come down then.
A reason to go. And that's all you need is a reason to go. I love it. All right, Brian, what'd you think of tonight's Capital Punishment pay-per-view? Was it a pass or a fail?
Actually, I'm going to go on a positive note. I'm going to give it a pass. One thing I noticed was the matches overall seemed very slow, but at the same time, I noticed that there was much more emphasis on fundamental wrestling.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I will definitely give you that.
Like especially with Kofi and Dolph and CM Punk, Mysterio especially, even more so than Randy Orton and Christian. There was just more basic wrestling.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I've said this many times before, but it's a statement that I really do live by and really love to see happen. But it is, be careful what you ask for because it just might happen. You just might get it. And as was said about, was talked about earlier by one of the callers, is people want to see wrestling. They talk about let's see more in-ring time. People are measuring or counting the amount of minutes of in-ring wrestling time we have on the Monday and Thursday wrestling shows. Well, this pay-per-view did deliver wrestling, and whether you like it or not, it was a good wrestling pay-per-view in my opinion. Was the overall package there? I'm not ready to answer that, but it was good wrestling. Which show was better in your opinion, Brian? Slammiversary or Capital Punishment?
Although Capital Punishment was enjoyable, and I say that in a casual light, I'd have to go with Slammiversary just because I actually got pumped for that pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Styles versus Bully Ray, I got pumped for and excited for that match. I mean, while most of the matches were good, nothing really got me excited.
All right, Brian, thank you very much for calling from New Orleans, Louisiana. Former home of mine for 2 years, actually. I lived down in New Orleans, and I do miss Bourbon Street Faux Show. We have only 3 minutes left here in our time allotted on Blog Talk Radio, so we're only going to be able to take 2 more phone calls. But we want to instruct all of you who are waiting on hold to give us a call on Wednesday night as we return to 540 ESPN for our weekly radio show, and you never want to miss an episode of that because there's always something going on.
Tired of all the lies, rumors, and assumptions in wrestling news? So are we. Join us each week for the Pro Wrestling Report on ESPN Radio for the latest news and views on pro wrestling. Visit us at pwrshow.com to check the latest schedule.
Again, that's Wednesday night. We are live again on 540 ESPN. Let's go to our next caller. Calling us from the 707 area code. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
What up? This is Ruben.
Hello, Ruben. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm over here in Sonoma County doing tremendous. I know that most of the people that you talked to today watched the pay-per-view. I kind of bypassed it because just what the comment from the guy from New Orleans said that he was pumped up for Slammiversary. I didn't really feel pumped up for Capital Punishment, a.k.a. the Great American Bash. I just didn't feel very pumped up for it.
So they didn't get you in the door, basically?
No, because we already knew what was going to happen. Our truth was going to get dealt with. But it's good to hear, which I can't wait to see online, it's good to hear that Christian and RKO had a great match.
Mm-hmm. It was, and I don't think anybody could have expected anything less of those two. Thank you, Ruben, for that call from out in Sonoma County, California. Let's go to our final caller of the evening. Comes to us from the 501 area code. Caller from the 501. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Curtis from Arkansas.
Curtis, what did you think of Capital Punishment tonight? Was it a pass or a fail?
A definite pass, especially the first match featuring Dolph Ziggler. He deserved to be the U.S. champ.
All right. And which pay-per-view was better this month? Was it Slammiversary or was it tonight's Capital Punishment?
Capital Punishment for sure. With the exception of the senior match, the card was good.
All right, Curtis from Arkansas, thank you very much for that call. And we want to apologize to all the rest of you waiting on hold as we're not able to get to you tonight because we are out of time here on Blog Talk Radio. But overall, the statistics. Half of you said that the pay-per-view was passing. Half of you said it was failing. But conversely, most of you said Slammiversary was the better pay-per-view this month. And next month, will it be Destination X or Money in the Bank? David Hero made the point earlier that the pay-per-view concepts are strikingly similar. What will we see from TNA and World Wrestling Entertainment? Well, the only place to follow it if you can't watch the shows is right here, the Pro Wrestling Report on Blog Talk Radio. Be a part of it.
Don't forget to follow PWR right here on Blog Talk Radio right now. Be reminded of upcoming episodes and never miss Blog Talk Radio's most popular sports show. Follow PWR now.
And I want to remind you, this week it's a special edition of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, Wednesday night, 10 o'clock p.m., followed on Thursday by an on-demand edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Television. We look at the politics of professional wrestling and talk about some big stories that you may not have ever heard of that were all attributed to politics. Thanks to all of our callers from all over the country. For David Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you for joining us for the post show.